What's up, guys? I'm Justin Willman. You're watching Lobster and Beer TV. This is a card. That's a watch. I ate my lobster. The beer disappeared. Good job.
Let's go. As it brings us all together for the night we all remember the kind of times we want to last forever. An unforgettable experience. Moments spent with all our friends, gathering around the dinner table.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Lobster and Beer TV. I'm your host, Brian Thompson. Today's guest doesn't really need an introduction. He is arguably the most famous magician in the world right now. And you probably know him from his hit Netflix show, Magic for Humans, that he writes, produces, and stars in. He's made regular appearances on The Tonight Show, Ellen, Conan, as well as hosted shows like Cupcake Wars, Win, Lose, or Draw, King of Cones, and Netflix's newest show, Baking Impossible. Big Al and I been big fans of this man for a while, so we're very excited for this moment. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, coming to us live from Los Angeles, California, with a lobster and a beer, Justin Willman.
Man, I thought only Scott Avett got introductions like that. I didn't realize you give that out to just anybody. That's really nice. Thank you, guys.
It's not every time, man. But we when we started the show, we said that it's not about clickbait. It's more about bringing on people that we are genuinely interested in, and the premise of it is to just sit around like we're at the pub and have a conversation. And it's very rare that I've been to the pub with someone that I don't really want to hang out with, unless I was like 21 on a Tinder date.
That's the pub. The pub is for the homies.
Yeah, pub is for the homies. And I feel bad, man, because I honestly, I hope you didn't question my homieship when you got the beer that was sent to you.
I might have questioned it.
You might have questioned it, yeah. And so before we dive in, I got to be honest about this. So we sent you a Sam Adams, which is the equivalent of, like, it's like the Walmart of craft beer. And Alec was pissed at me when we were doing it.
I was.
But there's a reason why I did it. So, you know where Sam Adams is made? It's made in Massachusetts.
Absolutely. Not
only is that where you went to college, but do you know who's from Adams, Massachusetts?
I believe that'd be Penn Jillette.
Actually, that's pretty spot on. We might have to fact check that. But the most famous Susan of all is from Adams, Massachusetts, and that's Susan B. Anthony. So this, Justin, is beer for Susans.
Wow. Well, that's it. Yeah, that's not a Walmart beer anymore, dudes.
Look at the
I think it was real. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is my son's play kitchen. And let me see if he's got a play bottle opener here. Okay. I can.
There we go. That was clean.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers,
on
Justin.
the show, man.
Cheers.
It's an honor. Look at
Beer
that.
for Susans. And honestly, the right seasonal, there's nothing wrong with the Sam Adams.
It's very true. Yeah, I don't mean to. I actually grew up right outside of Boston. So,
where?
Andover, Massachusetts.
Sure.
Which is like 25 minutes north of the city.
Yeah, I know it well. I used to do, when I was going to Emerson College, I used to do kids' birthday parties all over New England.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. The, what is it, 495? 495.
495, yep.
Yeah, within that huge, 1 hour radius where you could go. There's so many towns, all packed little different niches. And yeah, I would do kids' birthday parties and bar and bat mitzvahs on the weekends.
Oh, that's awesome. I want to jump back into the beginnings of your career, but before we do that, let's hop into this lobster roll here. So we ask every guest to add a special ingredient to the roll. And what did you decide to add to this roll?
I added curry. Do you know who's from Curry, Massachusetts?
I do not.
We should figure out. I don't know. Somebody.
I love it. I love it.
Made up something.
You really could have.
I was excited. I thought you were about to hit us with something. But yeah, let's bite into this, man. Let's see what it's all about.
Oh, amazing.
That's really good.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Wow.
I honestly, and it's rare that I say this, but this is probably second favorite so far.
I mean, I'd say every single one is my favorite.
But that's because you just don't get to eat lobster.
And so I'm going to say this is my favorite.
No, it's really good, man. The curry and the mayo actually mix really well.
It's great. And then I, of course, also melted a stick of butter. Just, you can't tell me melting a stick of butter is optional.
No. That's
I did actually put that in the instructions because it was mayo based, so I said optional.
Exactly. That's clutch. I mean, the butter makes the whole roll. Did you put the rolls like on the actual stove and yeah? Have you is lobster something that you've liked to enjoy in the past?
Lobster's a big part of my life. Like since I was a kid, like lobster's always been like my go-to. Like, what's your favorite food? It's lobster. Always lobster. Every birthday dinner, my parents would take me for lobster. It's just I love lobster. It's like my special occasion thing.
Yeah.
So when you email me like, hey, you want some free lobster? Not just any lobster, but like a real lobster roll.
The real stuff, yeah.
And some beer. It's hard to.
At that point, it doesn't feel like work at all.
No, but it hit me. It was my happy place. If you would have been like, hey, you want to cook some pad thai? I would have been like, I mean, that sounds good, but I don't need free pad thai. But lobster, it's like gold.
Boom, baby, that works.
On to something there, I guess. Well, man, first of all, I'm a huge fan of what you do, and I know it's common because I've watched not only your show on Netflix, but different interviews you've done, like with the one with Google and stuff, and people always jump on and say your show is, one of our favorites in our household. And speaking for me and my girlfriend, and I know Big Al as well, it's something that and what was crazy is I never heard of it until I was living in right off of Franklin in Hollywood last year before I moved to Arizona, and this musician friend of mine moved in with me, and every night he would just put your show on repeat. Yeah. And so I was just kind of forced into watching it. But I ended up sitting there. I was like, wow, this dude blows my mind. And then I started to dig into it. And then I moved to Arizona, and, I wasn't living with him anymore. And I hadn't watched the show for a while, and I didn't even know that Big Al reached out to you. And then when I saw the email back, I was like, oh, no way. This can't be. And then I looked it up. I was like, he must love lobster and beer, because I don't know why he's on with us right now. This is incredible. But man, yeah, it's incredible what you do. And I want to jump into the show. But before that, let's go back to the early days. You grew up in St. Louis?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how long were you there for?
I lived in St. Louis till I was 18 when I went to college in Boston. My family's still in St. Louis. I mean, it's a good place, just one of those good places to be from. Good town, good people, good. It happened to have like a bunch of little magic clubs that would meet regularly, which I think was very like Malcolm Gladwell, coincidental, perfect kind of, setup to become obsessed with magic. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But now I've lived in LA for like 20 years, but LA, 20 years equals like 5 years in any other town.
Absolutely.
Time flies, and you don't really feel like you get to know this place as well as you should. But
yeah, you jump into this vortex, and all of a sudden you wake up and you're in your 30s or 40s, and you're like, I don't know what happened.
When you wake up, you're eating Lobster and drinking beer in your kid's playroom. In studio.
I don't think you had this as deja vu.
No, this is fresh.
For the record, does your son always have beers in his small fridge over there?
I'm very proud. I've trained him well.
That's great.
I mean, speaking of your son though, too, real quick, does he have the potential to be the greatest magician ever? I mean, you've involved him in tricks since he was whatever 8. I don't know. He seemed young, 8 months maybe or so when you did that episode with him and stuff. I mean, kids' minds are like a sponge. I mean, even at I feel like 5 years old, you have potential that he might be better than you.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool. I mean, I think it comes down to one, like if it just sparks that interest, because I don't know if the fact that I do that, I don't know if that increases his chances. Because my dad was like an airline pilot, which was cool looking back, and my grandfather, but just the idea of doing the same thing as what my dad did never crossed my mind. Never really even explored to see if I had an interest, just because I wanted to do stuff. I wanted to be my own man. You know what I mean?
Of
I
course,
think maybe it's obviously one or the other, but I'm sure if my dad was a magician, I probably would have felt like, nah, I got to be an airline pilot.
Gotta do something different. Yeah, of course. I've worked in music for years now, and when I told my parents that I was going to leave college and pursue a music career, my mom, being from South Boston, was like, Brian, no, you gotta finish college and you gotta get a job, and then you gotta have a family. And, that was the norm for back in the day growing up. And I obviously went against that. And I'm curious, like, when you found magic, because you started doing magic, right? You were rollerblading while biking, and you hurt yourself pretty bad. Then your physical therapist said, hey, you should start doing card tricks or some sort of magic
It's kind of like the truncated origin story that I've it essentially, yes, that is true. Like I broke my arms, doctor recommended card tricks, and now I'm a magician. Whether or not that was like a cause and effect, like thinking back, well, let's just say, yeah, that's why, because that makes a good story. But also, like, I explored magic when I was like 5, and then like again at 9, I just didn't have the attention span for it. Got a magic kit for my birthday. It was like, oh, I'll do this, and then a week later, it was like in the closet, and I was doing something else. Because I was just, I think, looking back, a little ADD for it. And then when I finally was 13, both my broken arms, I think magic just happened to pop up in my peripheral again. And now I kind of was a captive audience with the cast, and then I was really able to dive in.
Oh yeah.
So
are we gonna ever see?
Sometimes it takes like being laid up, or a pandemic, and we can't leave the house, to like discover a new thing that you would have never given yourself the limitations to think beyond.
Yeah. No, for me, it was, I struggled with drugs and alcohol. I ran away from home a bunch, and my parents were like, listen, you could be homeless or you can go to this, military style school. And I thought about it for a couple of days, but I finally went. But the catalyst of change for me was finding release and therapy through writing lyrics and performing. And if it wasn't for that tumultuous time in my life, I don't know if I would have found music. And I guess in the same, right, you go through something and then it kind of uncovers, and that's the whole silver lining idea, I guess. And what were you about to say?
Well, I was going to say too, though, are we ever going to see a trick that involves you riding a bicycle again with rollerblades? Is that coming back ever?
That sounds like, if I ever need to do like a David Blaine network special, he's in a block of ice, I think I would do this rollerblading stunt, but this time. Yeah.
Dude, so let's go back, dude. You
no one wants to see somebody rollerblade, even if there's magic involved.
There's enough of that on the Strand in Venice and Manhattan Beach and everything. So you went to college in Boston at Emerson, and you were practicing magic then. And then after that, you felt the inclination. It was like, I have to go to Los Angeles, or what inspired you to move to LA?
It's funny. It's like Emerson had like a semester program where you could do your second semester of your senior year in LA, which like gives you like a very cozy safety net way to say, well, let me try it. But then, I'm not committed, it makes it a little less scary to dip your toe in the water. And, once I lived here, it kind of became clear like, oh, I can do the magic and flourish that business, but also like, I don't know, you're surrounded by people who also, want to, be in the spotlight and think they have something to say and share. So it kind of gets the creative juices flowing. I can't imagine anywhere else I'd live. That's what's weird, like I travel all the time. I'm doing like 200 dates a year on the road,
awesome.
Which is,
yeah,
but yeah, it feels like a good place that I like coming home to. But yeah, I was doing kids birthday parties in Boston, and then I came out to LA and did the same thing. But as I'm sure you know, like LA also has this like, you can get swept into the wrong friend group, like cool people, but like sometimes like the bad habits and the sometimes addiction and abuse that comes out of like, wow, I never would have gone down. I never would have dabbled in this if this dude wasn't my neighbor. Or
did you have some sort of like struggle with that at some point?
I did. Like after LA, after I was in LA for like 2 or 3 years, just kind of the partying, with like, the uppers, and then like trying to have to keep that going for, oh, but I got shows, I got shit to do, and you kind of fool yourself into thinking that you're actually more productive, and you are.
Yeah.
For a day until you're not, And it can be a tough cycle to kick.
Yeah, it all catches up at some point, and and for some people they and for me especially, I reached a rock bottom where I was like, there was a number of things that happened. I went on my first bus tour, and on that tour, there was a bunch of drugs and everything, and I had a girlfriend of 3 years, and I cheated on her, and at the time I didn't care because I was on this cloud where I didn't even care about the people around me. But my whole music and everything I did was based around this idea of positivity and love and creating a community. But here I am taking someone who's given me their heart and shared something so special with me, and I'm just destroying it. Let alone when I was 14 years old, I was destroyed by a girl that cheated on me. And finally I woke up one day and I was like, man, I don't want to be this person anymore. This does not feel good in my heart. I don't want anyone to ever feel the way I felt when I was 15 years old. And it woke me up, and that was my rock bottom. And so I'm curious, was there a moment for you where you were like, man, I'm hitting these uppers, downers, like I'm trying to live this Los Angeles lifestyle. I need to turn things around and really get on track now.
Yeah, man, there was, it often comes out of like relationships, like, your girlfriend or your boyfriend at the time. Like I was with somebody for 3 or maybe 3+ years, and you're kind of like hiding this from them, like the person who you should most be honest with in the world, and when you kind of, obviously like infidelity it's a whole different thing, and there's a lot of guilt and shame with that, but like it is, even if you're hiding a drug habit, like you're essentially cheating on them, with this other thing.
Oh yeah.
And and then when you kind of get when you get outed, and it's all out in the open now, and it's like there's all that shame that comes with it, and then so that was kind of a catalyst, a very similar thing to how you just described it, just that feeling of like, what the hell am I doing? You are sharing like an intimate secret, you're hiding an intimate secret from somebody who means a lot to you. That can be the kick in the pants you need.
What was the first moment that you had that you were like, wait, like I can actually I can make it in this town, and there's something moving for me? Was there kind of like an aha moment where it was like, okay, I am on the right path. Like I am validated for having this passion and chasing it.
When you are, like when you get your shit together and you get healthy again, like you realize like, wow, I thought this thing was making me better and funnier and like more talented, when you realize like, wow, it was like totally clouding my ability to express and my ability to have any self-awareness about like how I'm coming across. Like, I remember when I would start doing magic again after 6 months out of like this sober living place, I felt like I never, it's like a whole new experience, because I feel like in the moment and at the top of my game. So that was like an initial burst of endorphins that just by realizing like, wow, like the thing that I think I'm put on this earth for, I can now do. This is how it's supposed to feel when I do it, Yeah. And then I started touring. I kind of phased out of doing like kids parties and started doing colleges. I kind of dove right into doing these NACA conferences where you give a little teaser. And
what company were you with?
I was with GP Entertainment.
GP. I've never heard it. I was with Deggy for years.
Oh, of course. I know Ari.
You know Ari, great guy.
Yeah. Ari also repped one of my best friends, Leslie Pike, who was a singer from Canada. But yeah, I'd see Ari all the time. I work with Ari still.
That's awesome.
On some random gigs. So the colleges, I mean, as you know, like that whole world, like if you have a good showcase where you do your thing and you're on, and it happens to be like this perfect little 15-minute set, you can book up 80 shows.
Oh yeah.
And that became like that validation. Within a year, I kind of had pivoted and was doing colleges, and kind of out of this little I was feeling like creatively like, woe is me, like why am I didn't see a way out of doing kids' birthday parties, and I loved it. But when you're like really, when you're hungover doing a kid's birthday party, it's not a good experience for anybody.
What was the transition from the college performances to, what was your first TV gig? When did that happen?
Well, I think I started doing colleges pretty like full on, like around 2005. I'd say by 2007, I started doing these guest spots on the Rachel Ray show.
Oh, nice. That was one of my...
This tastes like something Rachel would do. This is some good stuff. I love Rachel. And her show came out, it was probably 2007, started like doing, it was like buddy correspondent, did like 20 different spots. And that helped me like put together a reel of footage to pass around. It kind of becomes a snowball. You're like, okay, this is my reel now. Oh no, that reel got me a couple other things. And, honestly, like it's a lot of random stuff too, mixed among like touring colleges all year round. So like, Cupcake Wars eventually, I think it was like in 2010, like these random hosting auditions, just because I kind of was through this phase of like, don't say no to anything. Say yes. Yeah. See what'll happen. You never know. Just say yes. You know what I mean? Because you can hem and haw. I got an email about doing a lobster and beer show. Just say yes. Just because life's too short. And saying yes to things like really kind of began a streak of just positivity, and you're just kind of doing it and you're doing your thing. I don't think I really phased out of colleges until like 2015 or something. Like it was just something that I enjoyed doing. It was a market where I was able to do the show that I kind of really wanted, that I would like to watch, as opposed to, being a kind of funny tongue-in-cheek children's entertainer versus like, I can kind of like try to figure out who the heck I am when I'm just performing for people my age on stage. So that was important too. And then I started doing comedy clubs, and that was like a real good prep test, training ground to obviously figure out how to do magic in a place that people weren't used to seeing magic, or often didn't even expect to see magic, and make that work, and also try to be as funny as you are good at magic all at once.
But with that being said too, so because magic and hosting, although communicating with people and stuff, they're still very different. Did you want to be like when you were taking those auditions and say yes, did you want to be kind of an actor as well?
I thought, I was never like I did plays in high school and stuff. Like I never thought I was really, really good at playing anyone different than myself. Like the idea of acting like kind of sounded like, oh, this could be fun, but often like it was way more, I wasn't that I'm not a great actor, but also it was like a lot of stress and anxiety, like to try to be good at this thing that I didn't feel at home being. Versus when a role, like a hosting role, it's kind of like, yeah, we want you to come act as yourself. You know what I mean? Oh, okay. And then you can kind of skew that. Like sometimes I'll have little bit parts that come up where I essentially get to play myself, and then it's just a matter of like, oh, just get out of your way and say, say the words. But yeah, I was pretty realistic about that I wasn't like a brilliant thespian. Yeah. But I did try. I do have a one-word cameo on the Gilmore Girls. That
Do you really?
Find it.
Not just
Oh,
one
wow.
line, one word.
One word. We're gonna
find it.
We're gonna find it. And we're gonna clip it right here.
It's right here. Here
Right
it
here.
is.
Right
And then-
now. Right now.
Yeah, here it is. Boom.
Here it is.
Freshman. That was the word.
Do you remember the word?
Freshman. Freshman.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. So with your magic, man, in music, all artists, have some influence from the older generations that, they listened to, fell in love with, obsessed with, and they internalized their style, their sound, their writing, and then through their own filter of their heart, their spirit, created their own music. And I'm curious, in creating your own style, who has been your biggest inspirations?
Yeah, man. I often make a parallel comparison between magic and music, and I would love to be a musician. I'm a huge music fan, but I imagine magic and music are similar in that you learn the notes or the chords, and in magic you learn the moves, the sleights, and then you learn other people's songs and you learn other people's tricks. You kind of figure out how to recreate the trick out of the box. So here's how this guy does that. Let me do that, and you kind of become a cover. It's like a cover trick. Mm-hmm. Most magic tricks are covers of other tricks, you know what I mean? But and in music, there are amazing people who are cover artists. But then to understand, I know how I get it. Let me put these notes in a different order, make a new song. Let me put these moves in a different order, make a new trick. Or instead of doing it with a cup and a ball, do it with a marshmallow and a solo cup or whatever that might be, And for me, that's where in magic, it's funny because there's in music, it feels like there's an infinite number of songs, even though everyone's using the same notes. And in magic, I feel like it's about making the tricks metaphors or ways of telling a story about something new. Like while there might be a classic trick, I like putting a new sticker on it and a new label, and it kind of becomes a new thing. So I gravitated towards people like Harry Anderson, who was a great comedy magician and star of Night Court back in the day. Okay. Yeah. As like a kind of like the ideal mold of taking doing really good magic while also being really funny. Making Jonathan really, really funny, but also kind of spoofing magic. Not necessarily doing good tricks to blow your mind. He's kind of spoofing the art form. Darren Brown is a British mentalist who now I kind of, am very inspired by just his approach to storytelling with mentalism and figuring out a way to take an old trick but make it feel relevant now. It's like every day. It's like, kind of. It's not about what trick do I want to do. I'm trying to think what is an authentic. What do I have to say about life that magic is my means of saying, magic.
Has it become harder or easier as you've gone through the years of being in this profession?
It's become easier in the essence of I discovered probably right when we were about to start making Magic for Humans was when I had now been on the earth long enough to feel like I have some life experience with enough hindsight to have anything to say about. And also I've I've been on stage enough hours now to know how to feel kind of comfortable in my own skin saying what actually comes to my mind as opposed to doing other people's jokes.
Yeah.
That I realized like, oh man, like authenticity is the way to go. Like trying to, you know, in Magic for Humans, obviously like having it come from being a new dad, doing stuff about fatherhood, about being married, about, you know, the things that are actually true at the moment, because it felt like that was relatable. And also like the only thing that I had any authority on is like the things that I'd experienced. And I think all of us, you know, like
Yeah.
if no one can take that away from you. So it felt like a good place to draw from. But it is also harder because now, like, there's I have this amazing team I put together for Magic for Humans, and I have like a brain trust that I kind of like to bounce ideas off of all the time. And you know, you do feel like sometimes you've run out of tricks to tell the stories that you have. Like oh, I've done that. So it's
Yeah, that was one of my questions, man. So
it's frustrating.
normally, do the tricks come and then the story you kind of build after off of something you've lived through, or do the tricks come after a story that you've been through and you're like, oh man, I could build a cool trick off this experience I've had?
It's like literally 50-50.
It is. Yeah.
Like sometimes there's it just, there has to be something that an idea or a trick that I just love that I can't stop thinking about. Because if it's just an idea, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to, and this was an idea for like 5 years trying to figure this out. There's an old ruse called the psychic surgery, you know, where this was kind of a scam, I think in the 70s where, you know, there were kind of a shaman who could remove your sick organs, you know, we had this weird, anyway, some people bought into it, but doing like a psychic surgery spoof about like removing people's microchips that the NSA is implanted in them.
Yes, I love that one.
So that like was an idea. I just love the idea, but I didn't know how to pull off the trick. And like it was like trying to figure out, okay, what does this look like? And it took a while until it was like finally trial and error, and you kind of got the trick. But then there's like sometimes a trick that sometimes it starts with a trick, and I'm like, what could this be about? And normally that's when it's like a really great, like a classic trick is, you know, I've got a tea kettle, name any drink, orange juice, pour orange juice, name any drink, beer, you know, and it's called like any drink called for is this very old magic plot, which is awesome. Like it captures your imagination. You're like, oh, that's a dream. I could pour anything.
Yeah.
So then it's like, how do I make that trick, not use a tea kettle, make it now, you know, and make it, you know, so we figured out a way to do it with a Starbucks traveler, like coffee traveler, you know, about how to sneak booze into the park, and it's any drink called for that. And either way you go, like as long as you start with an idea that you love or a trick that you love that you want to make about something important, like it's gonna land in a good place, you know, as opposed to ever trying to just do something for magic's sake. For me, you know, like there's so much amazing magic, but just doing a trick without any context feels like a waste.
Yeah. What's the longest time you've spent on creating a trick?
It was probably that like microchip thing. It was like we tried to do it for my Comedy Central pilot, Sleight of Mouth, that we did like in 2014, and the version we ended up trying to like, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't like, it didn't make the cut, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then sadly now, of course, now it's more relevant than ever because people have, you know, like I thought it was, there was a simpler time where it was funny to do bits.
So Elon Musk has canceled you at this point.
Yeah. I know it's rough. It's rough. It's like there were simpler times where doing bits, making fun of conspiracy hysteria was adorable. And
you're basically, but you were almost like a fortune teller at that point.
I guess. I mean, sometimes that's what's interesting about magic is like when it's done really, really well, like the best case scenario is that people think that it's not magic. He's saying it's magic because he has to, but it's like we really like he's saying we're chipped, you know, or doing a bit like it really looks like, you know, like if I'm doing a mind reading bit, like obviously I want it to look and feel as real as possible, but then when you do your job there's a contingent of people who really believe it's real. And
Yeah,
honestly, I get emails from people saying like, I know you have to say it's fake, but like, and then they'll start quoting random like
Oh no.
your
like
Twitter
some
mentions must be
creepy
crazy, crazy. But with that being said, too, so with tech, I know you've said magic is kind of like changing the order of things and stuff. But when technology has become so big, and you've done a great job at embracing technology, do you enjoy more like are you using old methods for these tricks with new technology? Is that new stuff? Do you prefer old school versus using technology? Is there a preference in that?
Yeah, I mean, there are, I don't think I'm giving anything away, but obviously we live in such a technologically incredible time where like there are high tech magic methods to do a lot of like stuff to pull off some incredible things. But there's something about the unreliability of technology that just I feel like it's just a bad way to go. Like there's nothing like there's so many the more high tech the world gets, the more diabolical a very low tech method seems. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh man, yeah, I programmed all this code to enable me to know like where you live. Like with if you open your like whatever. There's some apps that can do cool stuff, but it's like also just like there are simple mind reading techniques using a pen and paper that will astound you because you won't believe that it's so rudimentary. Like we almost take for granted that sleight of hand exists. I was at the Magic Castle last night for the first night in like 2 years, and it's this magic nightclub in LA where
Yeah. That was we lived right down the street from that.
yeah. Oh, and Franklin, yeah, of course.
You never invited us though.
Damn. I by the way, I lived off Wilton. That's where I lived.
Oh yeah.
The Wilton Hilton.
Yeah, when you were at the Wilton, when you first moved there, that's
When I
awesome.
first moved there. Mhm.
Yeah.
Which explains why I might have had some shady neighbors.
Hey,
But
Franklin Argyle has many shady neighbors as
yes. Oh, that's a cool neighborhood. That's cool. But Magic Castle, like the magic act that killed the hardest, like the crowd was whipped into a frenzy, is this magician, Dan Birch, who I saw and idolized as a kid. And he's doing a dove act where it's silent to music. And it's just like, boom, dove, dove. Here's one dove. Boom, two doves. The doves are a puppy now. Like really crazy in your face stuff. And it's the same act that I saw him do 25 years ago. And it's like, it was an instant standing ovation because it's just so like I think it's a lot of people don't see live magic enough. So they're not prepared for how incredible good magic is. Like it's like life changing, invigorating. Like it makes you feel like a kid. You're like, I need to come back here tomorrow,
Yeah.
And I think you don't feel that way when there's any hint of tech involved because it just feels like it's hard to give you the credit for this because I can't trust it, So that's why it's best to stay away from it. But I like using tech as a premise. But not as a
of course. Yeah, no, I'm sure. I mean, it's very similar, it's the idea of listening to a song in your headphones and going to the live show. It's a different feeling. You get to see it live and to be able to to sit there and not being a musician and just being a fan of music, to sit there and listen to a song and be like, oh, that violin sounds cool. You don't even really point it out, but then you see the actual playing and the passion that comes behind it on stage. Great, band to call out, like Dave Matthews Band, right? It's like you hear them on record and you're like, cool. You go see them live, your mind is blown with what's happening on that stage. And I was showing your stuff to my brother, and we were watching Magic for Humans, and he was like, dude, he was blown away. But I was like, man, watch this though. And I put on some live shows that you did, and he saw that, and that's when his mind was fully blown. And I think that is the beauty, and what you just called out is taking it back to when we were kids, and that childhood feeling of just like the unknown and the excitement. That's the beauty that you bring to it. And that's not easy. Not that I know how to do it.
Not at all.
But zero. But you're doing so many tricks all the time. And you're on, you're on different shows, you're performing live, you're performing for Magic for Humans. So you have to plan these things. And these things don't take a lot of time. So it takes a lot of dedication, effort, and hard work. And my question is for our listeners and maybe even kids who are coming up in the game and want to work in magic, do you have like a daily routine? Like, how do you get into that mindset to perform at such a high level?
And continue with the work ethic that you have, doing all the producing and creating the magic
Yeah.
and the hosting and everything else.
Well, it's like creating magic for the TV, like for Magic for Humans, like it's like a hungry beast that, because when people are watching a screen, their attention's, it has to get to the point, it has to happen quick, and there has to be kind of a quantity, like a tricks per minute or a joke per minute thing to like keep us riveted. And when I'm live on stage, just like you were saying, listening to a track or being on stage and seeing, Dave's songs can go on way longer than he would ever have them go on the record, because when you're there live, like you're eating it up. Like I might have a routine that's like, wow, this is like 15 minutes, because it's like when you're killing, you're milking the laugh here and there, and they're eating it up, and it's like in the moment. But on TV, like if you have to cater to someone kind of disengaged on the couch, and so that will eat up like so much magic and material. And I find at those times, like when we're making a season of the show, like we might write a trick the night before we're shooting it, and it's kind of like I'm half leaning on like just muscle memory, like let me just fake it till you make it, pray that your body can figure out the things you have to do, but also often leaning on just like skills that I learned when I was a kid or in high school or in college, like the stuff when your brain is malleable and you can learn a new skill really, really quick. Like luckily, a lot of the magic skills I learned back then still somehow managed to apply and let me dress them up in different ways. But the work ethic thing, at the beginning we were talking about like, the thing, once you hit the thing that you want to do, like, oh yeah, I wanted to do colleges, and boom, doing colleges. And then, dream is to like create a show that I can make on TVs, and you kind of hit that. But when you're in it, you never like take a moment to like, I mean, yes, there are moments where you're like, oh, good, achieve that goal, feels good. But you're very often like swept into, well, what's next?
What's next? Yeah.
Gotta feed this beast. Like this feels good. Feels like now we're just getting started. Then it's like, oh, that means there's a lot more work. And you do have to like pat yourself on the back. You kind of have to let yourself enjoy like every little plateau that happens, because that might be the highest peak. It would suck if like it kind of all faded in a different direction after that, and you didn't even enjoy it when it was happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is tough. Building a team is important, but I think whatever it is you do, music, magic, art, like, or comedy, it's very much that 10,000 hours, like just find an audience. Like I would do, whether it was the kids' birthday parties and doing magic at like a Denny's every Wednesday that I used to do when I was in high school, like doing what you do in a place where like it is not an ideal situation, like I would do nooners at colleges, but like at 11 a.m. And they're eating food. They didn't even know there was going to be a magician, and you can figure out a way to like shine in that setting. Yeah, if you can figure out a way to shine when you are when it is not ideal, then you're going to have no trouble when it is.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have a message for kids who are coming up in the game right now that want to be at your level?
The magic game.
Yeah, exactly. When I was saying that, I was like, oh man, I was trying to think of a different way to describe it. But yeah. What do you got for the kids in the magic game right now?
I mean, or in any game. I mean, in any creative game, it's kind of like I get really bummed whenever I hear like of somebody who is truly talented, but who was talked out of pursuing it because the people around them didn't think it was a great idea, and unfortunately they thought that opinion mattered. Like if you really believe that you have something unique and special to share, or at least believe that like maybe it's not great, but this is kind of why I feel this is where I feel most alive. Like you kind of just have to do that thing and not listen to anything around you. I was very lucky to have supportive parents who kind of wanted me to still go to college and get a degree, had those fallback plan suggestions, but also like really loved that I found something unique and special. And I think like, especially these days, man, write what you know, create your thing, but also trust your gut. If you think this is what you're here to do, then nobody else's opinion matters.
Cheers to that.
Cheers,
man.
absolutely.
I love that. That's strong. Cheers, brother. I got one more question for you before we go. I know you got to run.
What you got? I'm gonna drink this butter.
You got to drink the butter.
Congealed.
Hella butter.
That's awesome. Justin, if you had an autobiography written about your life today, what would the title be?
Boy. Oh man. Magician on a mission.
Magician on a mission. I love it.
I love that.
I love it.
Cheers to that, brother. Justin Willman, we love you, man. Thank you so much for joining on the show. It's been amazing.
You guys are the best. Thank you guys.
Absolutely. Make sure to go check out Justin's show, Magic for Humans. Yep. He's live. You're on tour right now.
I'm on tour right now, Magic for Humans in person. So a bunch of dates on my website, justinwillman.com. Come see Magic. Yeah, come see the Dave Matthews live version of my Magic.
It'll honestly be even more captivating. I can guarantee that. Man, it's captivating.
It's very true. Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it.
Hey, guys. I know we got kicked out of the bar. They called last call, but we're back. And I just want to let you know we appreciate you guys so much. Our fan base means everything to us. So if you can, hit the like button, subscribe right here, and hit us up on Instagram, socials, everything. Lobster and Beer TV. We love you. We will see you on the next episode. Peace!